The debate is raging. If the Jazz get 2, is it Dylan Harper or is it Ace Bailey? That and others on an Ask LOJ edition of Locked on Jazz. Pow.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. And to the everydayers out there, you're the greatest. Thank you for making Locked On what it is. Today is an Ask LOJ edition, Friday edition. We will lottery it. We'll do our second to last fake lottery and see how it plays out. As Monday is the big day, the nervousness around a year worth of losing, all holding in the balance on Monday. Oh my God. Anybody else feel that way? Does anybody else feel that way about Monday? Oh, I think probably Danny Ainge, Justin Zanuck, Ryan Smith, Will Hardy, and a few others. Oh, yeah. Feel better having watched players all week. But still, Monday is Monday. Monday is like the hot chick in the... Never mind, that was going to get me in trouble. Going to the prom, right? Like, or whatever. Either way, open to all of it. But you get my point. Like, but you don't even get to ask. You just have to sit and hold your breath for a 14% chance. All right, we'll get to a bunch of things. Next year's plans for the Jazz. What is Lauri's role in this? Would we have drafted Cody Williams if he didn't have an all-star brother? Was an interesting question that came across. Ton of great questions because there always are. Did the Jazz make a mistake in letting a player go a year ago, 2 years ago? But the start of the show is on a conversation that we had this week in which I made the comments that I wasn't sure that I wouldn't go 6'10 over 6'6. That Ace Bailey at 6'10, now there's some question. Zach Lowe mentioned it on his podcast this week of whether or not he's actually 6'10. That seems to be a real question. So we'll find out in the measurements of the combine of how tall Ace Bailey is, and maybe that changes the conversation. If he's a 6'8 wing compared to a 6'10 rim defender, that probably changes the conversation a little bit. My thought was watching Ace Bailey, there just seemed to be so much incredible talent that part of me wondered, like, oh my gosh, are you going to look back and regret letting this kid go? I mean, the number 3 pick has always performed better than the number 2 in some ways. And Dylan Harper's really good. Dylan Harper is a 6'6 guard in the ilk of a Cade Cunningham, in control, not incredibly explosive, but in total control, fabulous footwork, on it, feeling the game, puppeteer, total control. Ace Bailey, as I said on, I think Wednesday on the show, is a little bit of a baby giraffe. Like, it's still, the limbs are long. His reach is not insane. It's 6'11 3/4. It's not something like he's 7'2", but he's got beautiful touch. He can put it on the deck a little. His dribbling needs to improve, but I think it will with strength and balance. And you can really see something pretty fabulous out of this kid. Particularly if he gets a little better handle, and he'll always have a shooting window. And part of me is just in love with that concept. And so if you're the Jazz and you're drafting at 2, you lose out on Cooper. And you suddenly are, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get the solid, like, pick? So here were the thoughts from a bunch of people. And really and first of all, Harper's 6'6". De'Aaron Fox works for me, but so would a 6'10 Brandon Miller. I don't think there's something about Harper that's De'Aaron Fox. He's not lightning fast. He's much more in the ilk of the Cade Cunningham. Jalen Brunson's the hot name right now, but the feet on the floor, in control, point guard who creates space. Next comment, I'd take Harper, but if Danny felt strongly taking Ace, I'd support it. Dylan Harper, and it's not close, honestly. This is coming from an Ace Bailey lover too. Believe not taking Harper is just overthinking it. There might be something to those last 2 comments. It might be just overthinking it. Dylan Harper is what you have. He's there. He's established. You know exactly what you're getting. He gives you, that's your point guard. Now it gets a little confusing of how Keyonte and Isaiah Collier all fit in at this point. You definitely have your first redundancy, but I don't think that Keyonte George or Isaiah Collier have shown anything in their 2 years or 1 year, respectively, that would say to you, I don't need that position. I love Bailey, but Harper's the most likely player in the draft to become the number one option we desperately need to put beside Markkanen. I'm not sure about whether you have to put it next to Markkanen, but Harper is probably a more secure possibility as a 1 or 2 option than Bailey. Bailey's range goes all over the place. I've heard other experts say that Ace has the most upside of any player in this draft. I think Cooper has the most upside. If you like Jabari Smith better than Cade Cunningham, sure. So I do think that Ace Bailey's baseline is Jabari Smith. I don't know that I believe that Dylan Harper's baseline is Cade Cunningham. I think he's really good, but Cade Cunningham is great. Cade Cunningham's all NBA right here. Dylan shades of Brunson, SGA, and Cade on the high end, obviously. If the shot improves, his ability to get wherever he wants with his size, nasty stuff. The shot's pretty good. Dylan Harper's shot is pretty good. In fact, Dylan Harper's shot has gone in at a better rate than Ace Bailey's, obviously, at this point. Dylan Harper is so schooled, so put together. In fact, honestly, one thing that maybe makes me a bit nervous on the Dylan Harper things, and this is probably stupid. Like, this is, if somebody said this to me and I was a talk show host, I'd probably like turn it into a whole segment of a rant. But there's a part of me that's actually nervous about Dylan Harper because it is all so perfectly refined. The hostage dribble where he's got someone on his hip, the pacing by which he goes into the pick and roll. It's so schooled. Kyle Mann for the Ringer had an interesting comment on something recently where he talked about like these kids are all so schooled they play inside of a textbook. And, you know, what happens when the train goes off the tracks a little bit? Do they make the right reactions? That's actually what I was impressed with on Jeremiah Fears. He always made the right pass at the right time. There wasn't a lot of other things I loved. But there. Harper's not an elite athlete. And he doesn't show up necessarily as an elite athlete in a bunch of numbers. The same way that Cade didn't. When I go back to the Cade Cunningham draft numbers, I think there was a little in 2020. See if I have them in 2021. There was some Cade Cunningham's transition percentile was only the 42nd percentile, but his isolation percentile was in the 87th percentile, Cade Cunningham. He had figured out already at that age how to get himself free, what to do. He was in the 62nd percentile in pick and roll, Cunningham, 67th in spot up, 90th percentile overall in catch and shoot. And on dribble, he was in the 65th percentile. Let's compare that to Dylan Harper. Harper's in the 55th percentile in transition. So that is very similar. I think Cade was a little less, if I just remember what I said. I'm going to try to, I cannot, they're on the same spreadsheet. Dylan Harper's in the 55th. Cade was in the 42nd. But isolation percentage, Cade's 87, and Harper's only 52. Pick and roll, 82nd percentile for Harper. Cade was in the 62nd percentile, having run 170 of them. And interestingly enough, Harper ran about the exact same amount last year, 166. Harper's spot up shooting, 86 percentile. Catch and shoot, unguarded, 93rd percentile. Both better than Cade Cunningham's. Cade Cunningham's pick and roll, better, or off the bounce dribbling in the 65th percentile. And Dylan Harper not. He's in the 42nd percentile. It's not a crazy comp. On a normal draft, Dylan's number one in the draft, and he's Cade Cunningham. Dylan Harper, I like Harper as a prospect. I also think he's a better fit for the Jazz needs. I'm not sure I believe in the Jazz needs concept. I'm not sure that we have a roadmap right now with a single piece or two that we're building around. I just think we need the best player. But I do buy the idea a little bit that you take Dylan Harper, not Ace Bailey, because it's a certainty, and we need something that's a little more certain. Would you take Jabari Smith or Michael Porter Jr. over an 80% Cade Cunningham? I sincerely think those are likely outcomes for both players. That's reasonable. That's very reasonable comment right there. but I'm not sure what an 80% Cade Cunningham is. An 80% Cade Cunningham to me probably is the 16th best point guard in the NBA. So it's interesting. Again, I just said it. I didn't say I would. I just said I'm probably the only guy who believes this, was I think the exact quote. Part of me thinks you got to take 6'10 over 6'6. Now, if he's not 6'10, and you also have to figure out, he's not Paulo Banchero, either thankfully or good. He Ace Bailey can't score like that. So it might be too big a leap. And maybe Dylan Harper is the right pick at 2. And it might be overthinking it. But Dylan Harper's dad said he doesn't want his son to go to Utah. Or did he really? We're touching on it next on Locked on Jazz. Friday edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by our good friends over at Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street in Logan and in Linden. I'm driving the new Santa Fe with the square back right now. Such a great car, so solid. I mean, really, that's what's jumped out to me driving the Santa Fe for a while. Just what a solid vehicle this is right now. I had the Palisade beforehand, which felt the same way. I had the third row seats, and I loved it. And then I got the Santa Fe, and I can see why this is such a popular car right now. You feel like you really are in control. It's a smooth ride. My son took it when he was in town for a brief on a long trip and came back, kind of said the same thing. I was driving up the canyon last night thinking about it's a really impressive car. So if you're looking for a car right now, think about Hyundai. You get the most bang for the buck. You get the dollar. You get your safety features. You get your smooth ride. You get all these things for incredible pricing. And Hyundai is holding pricing right now for all of its customers. So if you're in the market, email me at dlock09@gmail.com, and then we'll get you the VIP meeting either in Logan, in Linden, or in Murray at 4646 South State Street. The electric Ioniq 5, we own that, is absolutely fabulous. The lineup of SUVs incredible, from the Kona all the way up to the Santa Fe and the Palisade, and the Elantra and the Sonata are killing it on the same end of things. Email me at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com to get your VIP treatment. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA playoffs are underway, and NBA fans know that playoff season means big performances, and if that's a big performance, it's even a bigger reward for you. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 playoffs. If they swoosh, you score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more in a playoff game, Dash Pass members score a 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingspot the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more. Use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. The offer is valid noon to midnight the day of the game, or terms apply. Shay is the answer here, by the way. That's right. You get a $20 order or more. Use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout to get your Dash Pass. They swoosh, they score when someone drops an epic 50-point ball game. So here's the play. Sign up for Dash Pass. Unlock this. More exclusive deals all season long. And when a player drops 50 in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tender combo from Wingspot the next day with a $20 plus order and code WINGSTOP50. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms do apply. You're awesome. Thank you very much for making Locked on Jazz a part of it. Exciting day Monday. Draft sequence coming up. We'll dig into the 21st pick as well as whatever number we get coming up here. So awesome. Dylan Harper's dad, in kind of a weird interchange, there was a guy on Twitter who was talking about Ron Harper, didn't realize that Derek Harper wasn't Ron Harper. Derek Harper's the old Dallas Maverick who, when he got traded to the Utah, said, you go to Utah, and didn't come. And the guy on Twitter got confused between Derek Harper and Ron Harper. And so basically was like, would Dylan Harper, who's Ron Harper's son, the one who played for the Bulls, go to the Jazz? And Ron Harper tweeted back, trade would have to happen. And then Ron Harper kind of backed off shortly thereafter. The backstory on Dylan Harper's upbringing is he was really raised by his mom, who played at the University of New Orleans, was an assistant coach, I believe, on their high school team, and was really the one intimately involved. And Ron Harper, the former NBA player, was not inactive, but did definitely take like a back seat, at least in the way the story's been portrayed, to the mother of Dylan Harper, and kind of understood his role in this, and maybe very appropriately took the backseat, or not. I'm not getting in the inner workings, but did seem to like present like she's in control of this. She's the one coaching him. She's the one raising him day to day. She's the one in charge. And he kind of backed down. I was like, it's hit in his comments, and in a comment that's consistent to that, as the story has been portrayed, that he's like, it's his life. He gets to do things. There are certainly places he would rather have him go than other places. But the fact of the matter is that this is his life and his thing, and he's not going to get involved. So I think this is a non-story. But on the other end, I think this is one of those stories where, like, if the Jazz get the second pick and they know they're going to take Dylan Harper, or it's a high likelihood, you're going to spend a lot of time with Dylan Harper and Dylan Harper's agency and Dylan Harper's people and make sure that they're comfortable. Not that you're going to draft them. But at this point, with Ryan Smith and Ashley Smith as our governors, and with kind of the way this front office is built, I think if our crew, Will Hardy, spends time with someone, it becomes a pretty appealing place to be. I think there could be some trepidation. There's a lot of stereotypes, and there's this and that, but let's give them some exposure. And I think the more exposure someone gets to the organization and what the organization is and what it stands for and how it envisions things and the energy, I think those things will dissipate a little bit. So that would be my thought on the whole Derek Harper, not Ron Harper, not Derek Harper discussion there. All right, let's get back to the Ask LOJ conversations. If the Jazz get the third pick, who are you taking based on what you've seen so far? So I have not watched VJ Edgecombe, but I really liked Ace Bailey, obviously. So I would take Ace Bailey with a third pick. I don't think you have your guiding star at that point. I think you still have a long way to go. But I think you have a nice player, but I do not know that you have your guiding star. Like, for example, I'm not sure that I think Houston has their guiding star right now either, unless I actually think they do. I take it back. Amon Thompson is their guiding star. At some point along the way as a franchise, there's a piece out there that everything is built toward and projected. If you draft Cooper Flagg, it's that player. If you draft Dylan Harper, it's probably that player, which is why the Dylan Harper Ace Bailey debate probably ends right there. Otherwise, if it's Trey Johnson, who I really, really like and think will score 20 points a game, there was Zach Lowe and Kyle Mann had a conversation yesterday about what a pig he is. I didn't think so, actually. I thought he shot a lot, but I also thought there were other guys on that team that passed way less than he did. So I didn't get that vibe on him. I think he's going to be a really, really good, but I think he's a really, really good complementary scorer, but maybe not. Maybe he ends up with enough shake that he's really your lead scorer and he becomes your guiding star along the way. There's a chance. Trey Johnson, I thought, was super impressive, and this league is about scoring, and I think he's going to score 20 points a game along the way. I don't know that, like, if Ace Bailey came into the league next year, I think he's averaging 12 points and 7 rebounds. And that's where Jabari Smith has just hung. So you would have Ace Bailey, but I do not think you would have your guiding star. So I think you would still be going through. How does the lottery order impact your idea of the future of the Jazz? This is interesting. I've had a lot of thoughts on this and probably not enough time. And this kind of relates to the question that Stacy sent in. Let's manifest it and put it out there. If the Jazz get the number 1 pick and select Cooper Flagg with our current roster, what additional pieces would we need? So let's just start there. If the Jazz get Cooper Flagg, are we suddenly accelerating? My instinct is no. And my answer this whole time has been no. No, we still have a long way to go. You do this for multiple years. It takes to be 25 before you really become a high-level NBA playoff. That would be 6 years for Cooper, so it's probably a little less. Like Anthony Edwards is 23 and showing it right now. And those aren't, and you win titles at 26, 27, 28. It takes a long time. The only thing where I'm going to put a caveat on that now, something is changing in the way rosters are built and the impact of the first apron and the second apron and the new collective bargaining agreement. And we may have a little bit of an NFL phenomenon going on here. And the NFL phenomenon is if you go back and look at the Seahawks with Russell Wilson before he gets his contracts, and the Niners with Brock Purdy before he gets his contracts, and the Chiefs have obviously overwhelmed it, but in the Eagles for the first time with Jalen Hurts before he gets his contract. Before you pay the big money to your quarterback, you can build the rest of your roster in a pretty exciting way in the NFL, and you go, teams do really, really well. And then when they have to pay their quarterback, suddenly their offensive line's not quite as good and their defensive line's not as, explosive, and because they're short money. I'm wondering if that's about to happen in the NBA as well. We saw Orlando and Houston and Detroit, and they didn't go very far. None of them got out of the first round yet. Into the playoffs this year where they have not paid their primary guys yet. And the teams that are paying the most for their top two and their top three players are kind of out right now. And the teams that are in a stage in which they do not have to pay all their players yet are on pretty good routes. So I'm wondering if we're into an age where if you do get Cooper Flagg and he is that good and that ready, you actually do put your chips in a little earlier because your first or second or third best player is only going to be 12 or 14 million. And it's clear to me after watching Phoenix and some other teams this year that if you go throw 100 million at your top two or three players, you're in a little bit of trouble. Maybe the Lakers even. So that would be the one thought I have where maybe the landscape is changing. But my general feeling on the first question is how does the lottery impact the future of the Jazz? Is I still think we just have a lot of talent acquisition that we have to be doing. And if you get Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper, you probably have this guiding light I'm talking about. Like, okay, we're building around this. Now, Harper's a little complicated because of Collier and George, and probably the landscape gets a little chunky and might be a really Will Hardy would have to do some navigating in that locker room. And you also have Colin Sexton floating around. Like, that's going to be tricky. But I think Dylan Harper is your future piece at that point that you're building around as one, if you're as going to be your first or your second. So I do think that's where the lottery impacts us the most. You might have and if you're at 3, 4, or 5, you have a nice talent piece, but you probably don't have your guiding star. For most scenarios, we still just need pieces. And I think that regardless of the outcome of the lottery, we're just in a multi-year process where you're acquiring talent the way Detroit grabbed Cade Cunningham and then Oscar Thompson and Jaden Ivey, and the way Houston grabbed Jalen Green and Jabari Smith and Amon Thompson in a 3 or 4 year process of draft picks. I think we're in that world. What are the Jazz plans for next year, and how does Lauri fit? Those are the next two questions on Locked On Jazz. Have you learned about what the Amazon Fire Stick can do? This is pretty crazy. Maybe not just because I don't think this is just crazy because I'm an old guy. I think this is actually just really, really neat. So your Amazon Fire TV is also an Xbox. That's right. You can turn your TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with a Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. You just grab your paired controller, you subscribe and sign into the Xbox Game Ultimate with EA, and you're ready to play. You dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty to Black Ops, whatever it is you want to stream and play. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. So if you have Wi-Fi 6 or 6E and auto low latency mode advanced technology, then the Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds that you need to stay competitive. It's pretty cool. So it's endless entertainment. Plus, you also get your Netflix, your Prime Video, your Disney Plus, your Max, whatever it is, all affordable and portable. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. It's pretty amazing. So go grab it. If you're on the road, you want to be gaming. I watch our players walk around with their consoles all the time. Maybe now they just need a Fire TV Stick. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. That's Xbox Game Plus Ultimate subscription. The Xbox Game Plus Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, second gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, first and second gen, and Fire TV Cubed, third gen. Ask LOJ edition. Absolutely great bunch of greatness today. It is time for us for the second to last time to do a simulated lottery. Are we ready? Make sure it's all there. It's all there. Here's our simulated lottery. As we have gotten to know, San Antonio, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas are the first four. And then I'll take you through the rest. Come on. Here we go. Actually, interesting debate. Do you actually want to do well in a fake lottery? Do you care? Here comes number 14. Should be San Antonio. It is. 13 should be Atlanta. It is. 12 should be Chicago. It isn't. Chicago's into the top four. Portland should be 11 now. It is. Houston should be 10 now. It is. San Antonio should be 9 now. Thank goodness. Toronto should be 8 now. Oklahoma City gets Philadelphia's pick as both Toronto and Brooklyn jump to the top. The Jazz come in at 5. The Jazz come in at 5. Brooklyn at 4. Toronto at 3. Chicago at 2. And the Washington Wizards. Bub Carrington's game winner on the final day of the regular season bumps Washington to 2 instead of 1. And that turns out to be the lottery difference that gets them Cooper Flagg. Chicago gets Dylan Harper, which means Kobe White's now available. Or they take Ace Bailey. Toronto takes Dylan Harper at 3, which means Scotty Barnes becomes available. Brooklyn at 4 goes with Trey Johnson. And the Jazz sit at 5 and trade for Trae Young. I don't know. That is the most likely scenario. And that one's going to be a hard one, hard pill to swallow. That is the most likely, 48% chance, and that's a hard pill to swallow. What are the Jazz projections on the Jazz pick? If it's not top 8 again next year, then it expires. So the Jazz are incentivized to tank again next year. Yes, that is the truth. The Jazz pick, if it is in the top 8, goes to the Jazz and then becomes a second-round pick in like 2030 to Oklahoma City. But if we are like 13 or 14, Oklahoma City gets our pick. Here's what's so interesting about Oklahoma City. They have all these picks, and they could come up golden like they just did in that draft lottery. There's also a chance that a bunch of them are not going to ever happen. So thinking of next year as a priority for the Jazz to retain vets, keep picks for conveying to OKC. Not sure what the Jazz can do both to help as the kids continue to improve. I think next year could be even younger, would be my comment. Next year could be even younger. Really where, okay, Keyonte, it's year 3. No more excuses. Training wheels are off. Let's go. Taylor comes back. You're working him back. Cooper Flagg plays a lot of minutes, and you try to figure it all out. Let's get to rapid fire on an Ask LOJ. If Cody Williams doesn't have an all-star brother, do we still pick him where we do? I think this is a great question. And I actually don't think it's so I liked Cody Williams in last year's draft. And honestly, after this rough season, I've had to go back and reevaluate, like, what did I like? And the fact is, that draft was so bad and the players weren't good. You were finding little pieces. And if you go back and listen to the tape, 2 of the pieces that I liked most were plays where he turned it over. I mean, that's kind of what you were like looking for, just some sort of burst, some sort of something. So did you create a narrative in your mind that because his brother's great, he could be great too? Maybe. Maybe I did. I can just speak for myself. I think there's a real chance that maybe I did. I also created the narrative in my head that his passive style, where he wasn't involved in the game and kind of got lost, was because there were 3 seniors on the floor that were boxing him out. Having watched him this year, I'm not sure that's true. I think he's naturally passive and he's going to have to fight that. So I think it's a totally fair question. If Cody Williams' last name was Johnson and he wasn't related to Jalen Williams, would have I still liked him at 10? I can only speak for myself. I think that's possible. How would it be viewed if Taylor Hendricks turns into Jaden McDaniels? I think pretty well. I remember saying to someone like, well, I think Taylor Hendricks' downside is Robert Covington. This was someone important. And they're like, oh, well, that would be great. Like if you're drafting 9th and you get Robert Covington, then that's fine. To me, I was actually saying it as though it was like a disappointment. On the other end, Robert Covington ended up having an 11-year NBA career and started 500 games and averaged like 13 points and 6 rebounds. And I think Taylor's a better rebounder and much bigger at 6'9" than Covington, who's 6'10". Jaden McDaniels is 6'9", and instead of one, and Taylor's now going to be about 210, 215. I would hope that he shoots better than 35% as career three-point shooter, and Jaden shot 33% this year, but I don't know that for a fact. But if he's a lockdown defender that averages 12.6 rebounds, probably gets a block and a half, a little bit more aggressive, then that's probably fine. I don't see Taylor Hendricks' progression. I think is going to be very slow. One, because the injury. Two, because his just natural feel of the game was not elite. And I think he developed later than some others. And so I don't see a 16, 17 point a game scorer there at any point. I see a player who's impacting the game with rebounding, block shots, 12 points, 7 rebounds kind of player. I've read a few times that rival teams view Lowry's contract as a massive overpay. Was it? So it's 42 next year, which doesn't feel bad. The 53 in year 5 feels like it's getting to be a lot, but the collective bargaining agreement will have changed by then. I don't think it's a massive overpay. I do think there's a little question, as we've talked about, that there's transition going on here in the league, and the teams that paid the most to their top 2 or 3 players did not do well. If Lauri is the 3rd best player on a championship team, and you're paying him $46 million in the 3rd year of this contract, the question that a front office has to ask itself is, if I use that $46 million for 2 players who give me 52 minutes a night rather than the 34 I get from Lauri, am I better off? That's what Minnesota did with Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo instead of Karl-Anthony Towns, and they're better off. So that's the question. Why should the Jazz trade Lauri at all? How are you going to build something if you keep trading away building blocks? The question is whether or not, and 5 years is a long time, I think Lauri probably is going to be still a viable, very good player while we have him. And the other thing is that Lauri's contract, which maybe, let's say it even is a massive overpay, if he's one of the key blocks for us while we have 2 or 3 rookie contracts going on, then it's not a massive overpay. So no, there's a real argument that Lauri fights through this growing process. And as we suddenly get better in 26, 27, and Lauri's still got 3 years left on his deal, and he's making 46, 49, and 53, maybe he's overpaid, but we're underpaying 2 or 3 of our other guys at that point. Where do you think the top 5 players in last year's draft would be ranked in this year's draft? Well, Risha Shea was 1, and I think he goes 7 or 8 this year. That was kind of the feeling on last year's draft when it was happening. I don't know where Reed Shepherd goes. Stephen Castle and Ron Holland couldn't shoot. And Stephen Castle shot 29%, and Ron Holland shot 24%, and TJ Salon shot 28% from 3. Like the next 3 guys drafted did not shoot well. I'm not sure how many. I haven't watched the whole top 10. Is Risha Shea and Con Knippel the same player? Or similar? Maybe. It's a good question. How much do interviews matter in the pre-draft process? If a guy has good measurements and ability but is timid or quiet, is that concerning? Could you find a guy that's killer instinct? So I do think the interviews really matter. The Jazz will go to the Combine in Chicago. That will probably be the most important thing, more than watching the players play, is sitting it down from them talking. You know, like there's a great story about a player whose pagers were going off many years ago while he was in the middle of an interview with a coach, and, you know, it kind of tells you something. So I think you learn an awful lot about it. There is a level of talent you just draft regardless of the interview. That's the truth. That is Locked On Jazz today. Thank you so much for tuning in, being a part of the program. Big day Monday. We'll talk. We'll console each other. We'll be a part of it Monday morning together, holding on tight in a nervous day. And then I like a huge party I'm supposed to go to honor like a super important person in our life. I'm not going on Monday. I'm hanging out and watching the lottery with you. I'm wearing my Duke blue every single day between now and then. Come on, Cooper. Come on, Cooper. Come on, Cooper. Please, Cooper. Please, lottery balls. Please, please, please.